All right, looks like we're live. So I'm just gonna check a few things here. All right, looks like we've got sound. All right, great. I can get rid of this. Well, this is my first stream. I just wanted to get on here like everybody else is going on to YouTube lately. So I feel like it's time for me to, grab an oar and start to contribute and start to be a bigger part of this scene. I've been a comic collector my whole life, and I've recently just felt like things are really getting bad. I know they've been going bad for a long time, but ComicsGate is the way forward. It is the future. It is what the industry is going to become. So, it's time to jump ship, grab an oar, and start contributing. And as a creative person myself, I'm going to be getting involved with my own project soon. So that's something that I want to, get this YouTube channel built up and get some people, on board and hopefully contributing. I can help contribute and go on other people's streams and help them out. So that's the thing I love about this community is everybody is really helpful, and there's just so many new ideas and so many new artists and writers coming out of this scene. So I'm glad to be a part of it. I've actually been watching Ethan's channel probably for a couple of years now. I had found him before the ComicsGate thing actually became a thing. I guess I want to say it was either his Michael's craft video, like the one where he went into the store and told people what supplies to pick out if they wanted to get into drawing comics. And then I think I saw the Mark Waid stream shortly after that. So yeah, that was pretty much writing on the wall. I could almost tell during that interview that the respect just, it didn't seem to be there with some of the bigger creators like Wade and other people at the time. Now we see what's going on with all the cancel culture and how everybody's nobody is immune from the criticism, but early on there it was kind of ludicrous the way the pros would jump on the fans and would jump on other fellow creators and people in the industry, and just there was never any respect being given. So I think long term it's going to take a while. I don't think the comic industry is going to die as soon as everybody else thinks it is. Everybody, the general consensus seems to be that maybe there's another year left, maybe there's a couple years left. Comics have been around for almost 100 years. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. We probably have at least another 4 or 5 years for the mainstream industry to kind of keep things afloat. But at that point, I think ComicsGate, Fandom Menace, a lot of these other movements that are springing up are going to, be able to grab hold of the main customer base and really be able to, compete on a dollars basis with some of the mainstream stuff that's coming out. But, up until then, it's still going to be it's going to be a struggle. There's going to be a lot of fighting. There's going to be, people not willing to secede any ground to, these new up and comers and kind of the disrespectful, or not disrespectful, but just kind of the part of the movement right now that doesn't really give a shit about the mainstream anymore. Like I was saying, I'm still a collector. I don't, collect as many comics, like new titles as I used to in the past. But I mean, I've been collecting comics for more than 30 years of my life, mostly consistently. But I mean, maybe there's been about 4 or 5 years in that span where I wasn't purchasing on a regular weekly basis, but I've always been collecting back issues, always been going to cons, always kind of trying to keep up with what's going on in the storylines and in the industry. So like a lot of other, long-term collectors and things like that, it's tough to see or hard to see that the industry is just going to go away. And that's a good thing. I don't think the mainstream industry needs to disappear. Obviously, I don't think ComicsGate is going to be able to actually change the mainstream in its current form. There's no way that, if I just don't feel that they're going to be conducive to bringing people back into the industry that maybe have left and come over to ComicsGate. I don't think people starting out in ComicsGate are ever really going to make a foothold in the mainstream industry. There might be some people that actually get a chance to, write or draw some titles if they become big enough in ComicsGate. And if, these companies make them an offer they can't refuse, I don't see why anybody would be, stupid to refuse it. So I would never hold that against somebody as long as they're in ComicsGate and still producing ComicsGate titles. Then, I'm going to support that. I think the community is going to support that. But, it's one of those things where I think it's just going to be more of a slow morph over the next, like I said, 2 to 5 years, maybe. Not that a lot of stuff won't happen in the next couple of years. I think you're going to have some really, clearly Ethan has shown there is money to be made. And so the first kind of sign that we're going to see, I think you're going to see some of the mainstreamers come into ComicsGate thinking that they can kind of change it from within, or that they can come in and make a quick buck and then go back to the mainstream or still hold on to that. Sean Gordon Murphy would probably be a good example of that. But, without actually, kind of being that counterculture creator, the mainstream is going to slowly start to whittle away, and it's going to eventually, you're going to reach a point of no return. Now, whether or not this is going to impact other industries, I think that could speed things up. And I'm just going off the cuff here, just kind of stream of consciousness. So don't mind me if I start repeating myself or if I start, not making any sense. I guess that's bound to happen. This is my first live stream. I don't have anybody watching right now. I really just wanted to do this to get it out of my system. Like I said, start contributing, grabbing an oar, as Coach says. And the only way I felt I could do that is just schedule a live stream, make sure my ass is in the chair, and start streaming. And I'm going to try to do this more often. So hopefully this is kind of the beginning of a long-term thing. And like I said, I do a little bit of drawing. I do a little bit of coloring. I'm mostly writing right now. So that's going to be hopefully my main contribution. But eventually I do want to get more connected with some of the fellow creators out there, a lot of the newer people, and just let's see if we can help each other out. I've seen a lot of really cool projects, the Zaid brothers, or the Diaz brothers, I should say, at Zaid Comics. Really like the stuff that they're doing. Narwhal is kind of an inspiration. Kelsey's kind of a mainstream guy, but he's been, kind of really doing so many different projects and so many cool things with CG that I don't think he's anywhere near his potential. I think he's going to be just like a huge star in the future. Not even just with ComicsGate, but I think the mainstream is going to start to take notice too a lot more. And I don't think he's ever really had a problem getting jobs or anything, but I think it might come where if the mainstream starts giving him more work, it's going to be tougher for him to concentrate on CG. So hopefully he kind of learns pretty quickly that CG's got his back and he should just focus on stuff like that. And I'm glad to see him doing a project with Zach as well. So, a couple of the things I was going to mention is this being the first stream that, so I go by Novablast on YouTube. I've been probably on YouTube for like since the beginning on that account, but I've created this new channel, which is acetiCsmoG, which is an anagram of ComicsGate. A lot of people are probably wondering, what is acetiCsmoG? What the hell does that mean? Basically, I just rearrange the letters in ComicsGate. Out comes acetiCsmoG. So for anybody who's kind of wondering, what does that even mean? Well, acetic, that's acetic acid. That's the stuff that's in vinegar. Smog, that's pretty self-explanatory. I kind of visualized it like, it's the kind of the vinegar vapors of vengeance against the mainstream comic industry. There is so much bitterness. There's so much, bile that goes around with what's going on both among the creators, as we can see with this, cancel culture biting them in the ass. They're kind of going after their own at this point, not even just after CG or the critics of the mainstream, but now they're starting to go after each other. So, with the acetiCsmoG channel, I'm going to kind of focus on the live streams. I'm going to focus on getting guests on and doing reviews and doing kind of an analysis of a lot of the ComicsGate projects. And I just thought it was kind of an interesting visual, interesting play on words. So hopefully that's not too confusing. And in the name, I also kind of capitalized the C and the G, the last letters of each word, to kind of remind people that it's related to ComicsGate. Hopefully that's going to catch on in time, and we'll see if the name and the branding sticks. I mean, this is all pretty much flexible. I could change anything at any time. I'm not married to any of this stuff, but I hope eventually, it'll kind of catch on or do its thing, and I can kind of keep it going. A lot of this stuff too, I'm just going to be talking stream of consciousness and off the cuff. I'm not really going to, stick to any notes or anything at first, just because I want to get used to talking on cam. I want to get used to pretending like I'm actually talking to another person. That's probably the hardest thing about going online. I've tried to get on a few streams, through invite or through StreamYards and things like that, and there's always like a little bit of hesitation or nervousness at first. And then when you get on, you're kind of on the spot and you had 10 things you wanted to mention and it all just kind of flows out of your head. You just don't even remember why the hell you're there or what you want to say. At least that's how it is for me. But once I get talking, once I get in the flow of things, I can usually, have some interesting things to say or have some comfortability about it. And, right now there's just so much negativity as well going on in the world. Everybody is very anxious about whether it's COVID, whether it's the cancel culture, whether it's, the uncertain future, that it's very easy to get caught up in all that negativity. So I want to try to, do something, it's not that I'm a negative person. I'm just more of an optimistic pessimist. Like I always realize that things generally slide toward the negative in the short term, but over the long term, we as people make progress. We as people are positive in general. And, I try to hold to that standard and try to, do the best that I can every day with what I'm given and with my, with my gifts and with my privilege and with my, and I say that jokingly, of course, but, we have a lot to be thankful for in the world, and ComicsGate is a reflection of that, right? There is, something that most people are aware of, that there's a tide changing. There is kind of a newness to the way that business operates, the way that people interact, the way that creativity can spring forth. So, I want to be a big part of that. In this whole comics world, this is something that's been near and dear to me, and I've just been so inspired by what everybody's actually doing. Like, people are having opportunities, put in front of them that might never have happened if, this little thing called ComicsGate did not come about. And, there's, we've got, Cyberfrog here. This is probably one of the big reasons that everybody gets involved. And I still think the full impact of what EVS has done is not, we haven't really seen it yet. I mean, I do see a lot of new people that have never even had anything to do with comics, and they start to actually realize, hey, comics are cool. There's actually, this industry that they maybe thought was dead. There's a lot of new stuff happening, and there's a lot of cool stuff happening, and there's a lot of, really interesting creators. And, obviously YouTube is a big part of that. YouTube probably being the main way that people get their information now, or, if you're not, if you've cut the cable, then, YouTube is probably your main source of entertainment if you're not completely addicted to Netflix or the other streaming services. And because I know, like, even though there's so many platforms out there to watch movies and stream stuff, like, really YouTube probably takes up 80% of my, entertainment budget in terms of, time to watch things and stuff like that. I don't need to watch TV shows. I don't need to watch movies. The people in just generally on YouTube, but especially in ComicsGate, in the Phantom Menace, Weeb Wars, all these kind of new, these new movements that are there as a consumer advocacy movement, or as a creator movement, as a new form of criticism on all this pop culture that we're constantly being fed. It's something that I think is pretty sustainable for the future. If it, everything doesn't blow up, if we don't kill ourselves on this planet, then this is really just where the mainstream is going. This is the way everything is going to work going forward. So, it's a good time to be alive. It's a good time to, share your ideas with the world. It's a good time to get together with fellow creators and kind of express yourself and do new things. I think the format of comic books is going to completely change over the next 10 years or so. I don't think digital is the future at all. I don't think, people are, until we have, some sort of device or tablet that almost completely replicates the feel of having a comic in your hands, nothing's going to really come close to the experience, and just the collectability factor too, right? There is the aspect of people wanting these, objet d'art, because it's something that they can hold on to, and it's something that they can resell for a profit if they're so lucky. It's something that they can keep and show to their kids, or show to their grandkids 20, 30, 50 years down the line, who knows. And by being in on the ground floor, by being, part of this movement early on, I mean, some of these books are probably going to go on to become quite worth a lot of money, or at least become a part of history of comics that pretty much everybody's going to be able to be proud to say they owned, and have been there right at the start when it was all happening. So, this is something that, every day I get very, very inspired to take part in. I try to get on the streams and comment. There's been so much drama as of late that, it's been a little tough to keep your eye on the prize, and and just to touch on that for a second too, all the stuff with whether it's War Campaign or all the kind of the battles that go on Twitter, it in some sense it's useful to kind of point out the hypocrisy, but I think there is going to come a day where, CG is going to have to just focus on putting out good books. Not that there isn't the focus, but I think, there's going to be less infighting. I think this is just kind of a sign of the times right now, or the sign of the moment that we're in right now. And, little brush fires here and there are going to happen, but, kind of the big blow ups, the big community disputes and stuff like that are going to be, few and far between at a certain point. So, and I think it's kind of brought the community closer together, some of the negativity that's been happening as of late. So that, it can only be a good thing. And maybe at some point there's going to be a chance for reconciliation. Maybe there's going to be a chance for some of these people that, haven't been getting along as of late. Things will, people will get back together, or be able to be amicable and be able to kind of have some respect for each other. And that's the thing. It's so interesting how the kind of the CG community, there's people on one side, there's people on the other side. You got some guys that don't want any of these old anti-CGers or former CG people to be allowed back into ComicsGate. And you've got, kind of this whole anti-CG crowd that can't seem to, I don't even know what their issue is. I don't know what, a lot of these people think they're going to achieve by, going against CG. They're not going to gain any new customers. I don't think they're actually pulling people away from the community, at least not in large numbers. So, if anything, I mean, maybe they get some new people that don't really know what ComicsGate is about. They kind of buy into a lot of the negative stereotypes or whatever, and they grab onto them first, and maybe they get some new people that way. But I mean, I don't think that's sustainable. They're just going to slowly get smaller and smaller over time and become less influential, less, people are just basically ignoring them at this point, unless it's to meme on them or just, because they're lol cows, basically. So, there's so much to look forward to. I think I'm going to be highlighting a lot of that stuff on this channel. I'm going to try to find some of the smaller projects and some of the smaller creators. And I don't mean that in a bad way, right? Just people that are new and haven't really had the exposure. It seems like there's this, running joke that, everybody wants to get on Ethan's channel and promote their projects and stuff like that. But really, I think it's important to, do your own thing. That's why I'm doing this. I think I've gotten on Ethan's channel once when he posted the link. I've gotten on Dan's, on Frega's channel once, a few other guys here and there. But that's the thing I realize is before, kind of jumping in feet first into some of these community live streams, it probably makes sense to kind of do your own thing and just be independent and don't worry about what everybody else is doing necessarily, or trying to get in their good graces or, suck up to them. Just kind of do your own thing, and you're going to find, fellow creators and followers, customers, whatever the hell you want to call it. And hopefully that works. Hopefully that's something that, a lot of people can get involved in. For a long time, I didn't want to start my own thing because I just felt like, well, who the hell am I? Nobody's going to care. But you just got to start somewhere. Like, all these things build up from a base level, right? And if you're not willing to dip your toe in, you're never going to get wet. You're never going to actually achieve anything, right? It's that whole journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So just got to do it, see what happens. And, I mean, basically what I'm doing right now when I'm talking to myself like this, it does feel a little weird, but it does help you kind of put into the words a lot of the things that you're thinking. So I think, it seems like everybody eventually gets their feet under them and feels a lot more comfortable. I mean, it's kind of hilarious how diverse the ComicsGate community is. Not diverse on a surface level, but in terms of ideas and personalities and character traits and, the just the humor and the eloquence that comes from a lot of the community is something that, you know, you would hope that you could live up to. You kind of watch these people, you feel like you're a friend of theirs just because you get to know them so well. You get to actually see, you know, how they think and what they think about certain things, and a lot of it you agree with, a lot of it you don't, but it's something where, you know, in real life, I don't think real people in day-to-day life actually talk to each other the same, with the same clarity and the same openness. And that's something I really like about CG and the Phantom Menace, is that everybody is, you know, they're not really hiding what their views are. You know, talking about the cancel culture stuff that's going on, I mean, that's always a concern, right? Is that if you have a day job, if you have a, you know, kind of a public life, are you gonna say the wrong thing and somebody's gonna actually freak out on you on Twitter or on your Facebook or in real life? I mean, I kind of don't really care about any of that shit. I generally stay off of social media, especially, I mean, Facebook, I maybe go on there once every couple months just to kind of keep up with friends and family. And, you know, Twitter, maybe a couple times a week, I'll check my notifications and kind of check my feed out and see what's going on. Or if there's some big thing happening, I'll try to dial in and see what everybody's saying. But, you know, you can become swamped with it. So it's important to kind of not let that stuff affect you too much. But, you know, you need to use it. You need to be attached to that realm in today's world. Otherwise, you'll have no idea what's going on, or you'll never, ever actually be able to, you know, talk with other fellow, you know, other people that are fellow spirits like yourself. But, and YouTube, I found, is the best social media out there in terms of the best community, the best, you know, just real honest people. And, you know, obviously YouTube is a business for a lot of people, or it ends up being kind of their vocation. But I think a lot of the creators on YouTube are pretty genuine and pretty, you know, they're trying to, it's just the nature of where the world is going and how we're all learning to interact with each other. I mean, throughout this whole, you know, health crisis, a lot of people are cooped up indoors. So this platform becomes a real escape and a real way to keep up with everybody and keep your wits about you. Otherwise, I mean, I've got so many people in my own life that have just become disconnected from reality, and it's kind of sad. You see how, you know, really the people that, when everything was normal, these were the people that I would assume are the more well-adjusted people. They have a lot of, you know, a lot of friends, a lot of people that they interact with daily. And as soon as the world shut down, they didn't know what to do with themselves. They didn't know how to actually exist under this new paradigm. Whereas if you're more introverted like myself, if you you know, work from home like myself, you end up, I was used to it. This pandemic didn't actually really change anything for me. Aside from the social aspect, I never really felt the need to go online and get in touch with people through YouTube or through social media and Twitter and things like that. But now I'm realizing, like, no, this is actually a really valuable thing. So it's something that, you know, I'm just, like I said, jumping into, and, you know, rather than doing it here and there, I want to make it more of a daily thing, so that, because really every day when I wake up, the first thing I do is I jump on and I try to see who is streaming, right? Instead of turning on the news, it's, you know, what's in the feed, and, you know, who's live and what are they talking about? Because you can usually expect anybody, if something's happened, somebody's going to be streaming about it and telling you what's going on, and pointing you to the, not only the, you know, the kind of the mainstream sources of where to get more information, but also giving you some of the alternatives and some of the, you know, diverging viewpoints that are so missing in the mainstream media and in the regular news that most people are, seemingly attaching some level of authority to, but we see that it's just lies. It's a pack of liars running the mainstream media nowadays. So you got to be really careful how you form an opinion and how what source of information you trust. And it's weird when just everyday YouTubers are actually giving you a more solid perspective on what's actually happening. It's also very strange to be on a stream like this and you stop talking for 2 seconds and it fucking feels really weird, like you've got, you should be just keep going. But hopefully the pacing and kind of the comfortability, like I said, starts to become more natural over time here. I'm just gonna fucking get on here and just start talking and just say whatever I feel I need to say at the moment, up until I have a more focused, schedule and a more focused, perspective on the things that I want to share on here. I'm going to be preparing for this a lot better in the future. I had to do this. I had been putting it off for too long. I had felt like there would be, like if it's going to happen, it's just going to start happening. But no, it doesn't happen until you make it happen. So now, one of the things that I was going to mention too is just this idea of, not like I've been mentioning, not feeling good enough or not feeling like you can actually do it. Well, that's something that I think a lot of creators struggle with, whether it's a writer's block, whether it's an artist not actually, being able to produce at the same level all the time. That's something that I actually see a lot of artists talk about is, you only see the finished work. You only see the published piece. You don't see all of the trial and error that went into it. You don't see all the erasing. You don't see all of the, crumpled pieces of paper. And which is that's a shame too, because that kind of is part of the story. That's part of the process. And I think if more people were exposed to these great artists messing up and not doing everything so perfect, it would actually be an even bigger inspiration for people to get started and do their own creative projects in whatever form that takes, because it's really just getting over that hump and just getting to work and putting in the practice, and you're not really worrying about what other people think. Obviously you're going to get criticism, you're going to get, feedback and things like that. And some people don't have the, the testicular fortitude to deal with the, what might be a negative perspective on what their output is. But, really that's the only way to grow. The only way you can get better is to make a mistake and adjust and do things differently the next time, if you can, right? And some of what I love the most is the rough around the edges stuff. I don't need my media and my my comic books or anything, even things I read, any of that stuff. It doesn't have to be perfect. Typos don't really bug me. A little bit of bad grammar here and there, I'm usually willing to kind of overlook it, as long as I'm, that the artist and the creator, the writer, is actually taking me to a new place, or actually doing something worthwhile, doing something new, doing something that really does come from their soul. Because there's too few people out there in the world that really put their mark on the world and get what's going on inside their brain out into the real world. So, and that's been the story of the digital revolution over the last 25 years is, whether, it's obviously it's like a new printing press, but I mean, it goes even beyond what the Gutenberg press was able to achieve. I think, we've only begun to see how this new digital landscape is, and then this, the internet, which we all take for granted, even though it has not been around. It's been around basically for one generation now. So where it's going to go, and how this is going to be integrated into everybody's daily life, is, I don't think we really understand. And I'm not even talking about jacking into the matrix and people living a truly virtual lifestyle and all that stuff. I'm just saying, like, as we interact with our devices daily, as we create new content daily with these technologies, I mean, we're still in on the ground floor, just because there's so few people actually doing it at this point, right? There's still room for a lot of people to make their mark. So, again, like, that's why I'm doing this. Everybody's getting their chance to get in the boat and grab an oar, and it seems like on a planet with probably close to 8 billion people now, that now is the time to start, right? Like, there's probably still only less than a billion or a couple billion of those people actually doing anything. Probably even less than that. Maybe it's only something like like a couple hundred million, really, when you get right down to it. So there's still I think there's still a big opportunity to connect with people and to kind of be discovered out there among all these other fellow free thinkers. Because really, at the end of the day, a lot of this, what's going on in this revolution, is a new revolution in free thought. And that's why a lot of the turmoil that's going on right now in the world is happening, is because it's the free thinkers bumping up against the sheep and the zombies. And there's always going to be violence, and there's always going to be negativity in that interface, in that in that collision. But it's necessary. It's something that I think we can all still learn a lot from each other, and we can all get along, man. Like, there's not really any real reason why this needs to be the end of the world, or this needs to be the end of our Western civilization or anything, even though it does, things look pretty dire. But if, as long as we're all still collecting comics and watching movies and talking about TV shows and doing reactions and all these things, if that's happening, then the world really isn't that bad. Like, none of us are, or not a lot of us are, in any direct threat of being kicked out onto the street and being homeless and not knowing where our future lies. We actually are very, very lucky to be able to do a lot of the things that we're doing right now. So I just want us all to keep that in sight. That's something that every day I have to, because I get very drawn into the chaos and feeling like there's no way to get your head above it. But really, you've just got to stay on track and keep doing your own thing, and be a creative person. I mean, that's really through all of history, right? Nobody ever stopped writing books. Nobody ever stopped falling in love and just kind of doing all the things that make life worth living. So as long as we keep doing that, I think everything will kind of be able to work itself out. So in terms of this stream, it looks like I'm going here for about 40 minutes or so. So I'm just gonna probably go for another 5 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes. I'm thinking every day I'm going to try to do at least half an hour to 45 minutes of live stream up until I'm able to get some people on, or I'm able to get on some streams. I do want to create some, kind of just some regular videos that are edited and kind of post those on the channel. So yeah, if you guys see me in chat on any other live streams or in the comments or anything like that, please jump over here onto this channel and subscribe and like the videos and keep up with what's going on, hit the bell and all that shit. but really, I think I'm just going to kind of more be doing this for my own good at first. Like, I'm not going to worry too much about the numbers or any of that stuff. It's hard not to look at the stats, but at first it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Like, I think this channel is brand new, fresh. I've got maybe one subscriber, and if I have any goal, it's going to be just to get one new subscriber a day and kind of keep on pace, and hopefully things will eventually pick up. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. We haven't had, I don't know if anybody actually came on live here or not. It says there's 2 watching, but I think one of those might be me. So if there's somebody else out there, let me know. Throw something in chat or come back on the video and throw up a comment later. But on this channel, I'm not going to be doing too many crazy things. I mean, if you want craziness, just watch the Jack Show every week on Thursdays, or obviously Ethan's channel. That's where a lot of the zaniness tends to ensue. But, eventually as I get more comfortable, I'll be able to open up and I'll be able to kind of get a little looser and maybe start joking around a little bit more and get a little more, crazy. But, right now I think I'm just kind of in more of a serious mode, and want to just kind of feel out what this is like, what it means to actually go online and put your thoughts out into the world every day and get that feedback from people and see what people think. I mean, I can blabber on for hours, so I'm not going to have any problem just coming on here and talking about stuff, whether, like I said, whether it makes any sense or whether anyone gives a shit or not, I have no idea. But I think it will help to kind of just get out here and do my thing more often and just talk to you guys, and hopefully you guys will let me know whether I should keep doing this or not. All right, so like I said, let's just be good to each other, and let's be positive with each other. Let's continue to inspire each other and continue to help each other out. I mean, there's so many great people in the community that I hope to emulate and hope to kind of have what they've done rub off, and hopefully I can pay it forward. So I'm going to get more into that. I'm going to be talking about, focusing on some of the channels that I subscribe to and watch on a regular basis, and kind of give you my 2 cents on, what I think they're doing right, and maybe even a little bit about what they're doing wrong. I'm not going to focus on the negative, but, if anybody's kind of, pulling some weird stuff that needs to be, put on blast or whatever, I'm not above that. I'll do that, but I just don't want to create any more new drama than needs to happen, right? But I think there's a lot of, kind of little things that go on that don't really get talked about, and a lot of that is the more positive stuff too, right? So, at this point, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at acetiCsmoG. So it's just acetiCsmoG. And again, I'm Novablast. Whether, people can figure out, it's one of those weird things too when you start going online, is like everybody talks about getting doxxed and their real name, their address, all that stuff getting out there. I guess for some people it's a bad thing. I mean, I'm not really too worried about it. You can probably figure out my real name. It's probably out there on a bunch of stuff. I think it's on my Twitter feed, anywhere on my bio. And I'm in Canada, so I expect that to be a sore point for a lot of people. Canada seems to be the butt of a lot of jokes right now, and I love it. I absolutely think it's hilarious because there's nothing bad about living in Canada, and it's always funny to when people they try to blame Canada for everything, and it's obviously because you can't really blame Canada for anything. We're kind of just probably more neutral than Switzerland at this point, but you know, it's one of those things where we do have our own way of doing things. We're not just America light like everybody thinks. So I'm hoping to kind of connect with more of the Canadian ComicsGate community, and I've seen how the UK CGers have banded together and done some things, you know, in their own little collective, and that's really cool. And I don't know if there's anything like that going on with the Canadian creators. Maybe there is. I haven't come across it yet, and I have seen a few Canadian comic skaters out there on Twitter and in the community and stuff, but I don't know if anybody's really tried to, you know, get everybody, you know, connected and you know, working on something or amalgamating in a loose form. So we'll see if that happens, or if that's a thing or not. But yeah, so if you want to make, you know, all the strange brew jokes and stuff like that, feel free. I kind of don't drink anywhere near as much beer as I used to. Kind of moved on to the hard stuff now because I just can't. My stomach can't deal with the volume anymore. It takes too much to actually get a buzz nowadays. All right, so now I'm just rambling on. So I think I'm going to end this. I've been doing this for over 45 minutes now. So just want to thank everybody for tuning in or watching the video. If this is, if you're seeing it after the fact, and hail ComicsGate, and hope to see you on the next video. All right, peace, guys.